Now, one person I met through the Booked Out Facilitator program is the host of today's show. I quickly mentioned his name before, but his name is Charles Hsuan and he's from Flying Kite. He is a storytelling coach for business owners and sales professionals, and he works with growing businesses with a strong culture of learning. So he probably is speaking directly to you if you're listening to this. Charles believes customers buy with emotion and justify with fact. Ain't that the truth? And he also believes that every business owner and sales professional can benefit from a simple and practical framework called microscripts. Charles has these available on his website, so I'll put a link to that in the show notes for this one. Before starting Flying Kite in October 2018, Charles won multiple Sales Performer of the Year awards as the Digital Advertising Manager of Entrepreneur Magazine South Africa. And it was during this period that he discovered and mastered storytelling as a powerful technique to exceed sales targets. You can check out his podcast. It's called Candid Conversations. And I've just recorded a follow-up episode with Charles talking about 1,000 days of being in business. So I've reflected on the last 1,000 days. Or you can find his website at flyingkite.co.za. So in this chat, if you've been listening to recent episodes, you might be a bit sick of the story I share about that birthday party I went to when I was a kid, but I do bring it up here because it's quite relevant. Again, YOLO, life is too short, and the value of time and just making the most of the short time that we have on this planet. I also share my journey from being a corporate employee to entrepreneur. And I'm a big believer in dreaming big, embracing serendipitous moments and taking chances, which you'll hear in this one. I hope you enjoy it. Now onto the show.
Welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations. I'm your host, Charles Hsuan from Flying Kite. Today we have Leanne Hughes. And Leanne, you are from Australia, so you are like my first guest from Australia. In other words, you're literally representing your nation. Welcome to the show.
Amazing. Any opportunity to represent Australia is an incredible one. I mean, ideally it would have been the Olympics, but this is like plan B, right? So
this is the podcast of Olympics. Okay, this is a podcast of Olympics or Olympics of podcast. So Leanne, I was thinking about how to introduce you over the weekend, and you're so multi-talented. There's a facilitation, podcast, speaker, trainer. Perhaps there's even a book coming in there somewhere. I believe everybody's at least have one book. But your main thing, from what I understand, is you help companies create rave-worthy workshops. And that in itself can be different facets. Speaking of rave, did you get the name because you used to go to raves, or was that before your time?
I don't know what raves are, so it's not before my time, but I'm not really a raver. Although people do come up to me when I'm out and they're like, what are you on? Because I'm just high on life. But I'm not into the rave scene. I do like some, like if I was the ultimate goal, it would be, if I ever won the lottery, would be on a boat with David Guetta. Maybe that's a little bit of that would be the rave that I would have, but not into like the scene.
Okay, cool. So you know what, like I'm going to get into the core of what you do in a short second. But, I always like to go back in time, I believe people are who they are today because of what they went through. And we had a pre-chat, so to speak, last week. And I found out from you when you were a child, you were quite a planner because your dad was an engineer. So tell the listeners again about how you used to plan your birthday party, because I thought it was such a fascinating story.
Yeah, and I didn't really think it was fascinating until I went to someone else's birthday party and it wasn't planned and it was really boring and it was just very organic. And again, as a 5 or 6 year old, I was judging that, which is like, okay, something internal here, and which is why I do that whole rave-worthy work experiences and workshops, is to maximize those moments. But my experience of birthday parties, this is what I thought everyone else was doing. Like I said, my dad's an engineer. He's highly analytical, even now, right? So he might see me on the weekend and he's like, Leanne, what's your list for the weekend? What's on your list? And that certainly triggered me at high school. But when I was younger, with birthday parties, we would itemize. We'd have an agenda for these party games. We'd go to the library and get all these books out, and we'd go through, which activity would we put where? We've got to start with this one because that'll ease people in. So we're literally mapping out what I do now with corporate workshops, but for kids' birthday parties. We'd also go to like these X Factor places and get like the coolest prizes for the games as well. So it was really about designing that experience. And that's the way, because I was brought up that way, that's what I came to expect. And so when I go to workshops or events that aren't intentionally designed, it annoys me. And that's why I started my podcast.
So do you feel like it will be wasting people's time? Because like, what are we here for?
That's it. That's I think when you drill it down to like the why I do what I do, that's what it's about. And I really know that we have such a short time on this planet. And for me, I don't like seeing time wasted. Now, saying that, there's also opportunities where you can have like loose people just chatting and everything else. On the flip side, my mother is from Papua New Guinea. I actually played netball for Papua New Guinea and I flew over there. And I had all these relatives meet me that I'd never met before. They came to my trial for the national team. After the game, they just sat in this circle. And so I went to sit down with them. And this Western mind was going, okay, what are we going to do next? Like, what's the event? But we just sat there for hours just talking. Okay, so that was like the flip side of the way that I was brought up. And so there's absolute value for it, but the value there is it's still maximizing time because I'm still spending time with the people.
Quality time. Yeah.
The people that matter. Yeah.
So I want to ask you about that, your background, but I'm just trying to understand. So from a 5-year-old, you plan the party, but let's talk about planning. So are you saying, like, for example, welcome snacks between, let's say, 4 until 4:30? Yes. So when 4:30 ends, you literally take the snacks away. I mean, what level of planning are we talking about?
I mean, oh gosh, I wish we could find like these handwritten, Dad had a book. He'd have the time. We'd plan the snacks, like what snacks are being brought out, what's happening, what decorations we need. So the setup beforehand was all mapped out, like an engineer would. I'm not an engineer in any way of the imagination, apart from maybe engineering these workshops. And then, so even you have Pass the Parcel in South Africa, right? Like, so we would do something where Dad would, we'd make it exciting. So we'd have like this, maybe a prize. It could be like a toy car or whatever it was, a Barbie. And we'd wrap it in like this massive box. So then it's Pass the Parcel time and Dad would walk in with this like huge box and everyone's like, oh my gosh. But just like little things, like every activity mapping it and going, how can we make this cooler or more inventive? Yeah, but it's literally timed to the minute.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just about planning. But and you know, it's a fine line, because when you just mentioned that, it reminded me. This was back in 2015. A friend of mine got married, and they asked me to be the MC and to give a speech at the wedding. And the way I ran it was kind of like that. They gave me itinerary. Let's say the wedding starts at, I don't know, let's say 4:00. And I literally stuck to the time, because I said to them, the reason why I do that is it's the biggest day of your life. I'm not going to be loosey-goosey and waste everybody's time. And you know what? I've actually never said this on air. So one of their family members, her cousin, Tracy, she said, because the way we saw you ran the wedding, you are going to marry us. And actually, after this interview, I'm going there to plan their wedding for them, because they're getting married at the end of November. And I'm actually officiating their wedding at the end of November.
Congrats. That's really
Thank
cool.
You. Never, ever happened before. I never thought, like growing up as a kid, I'll be officiating somebody's wedding. But because of that, they saw how my mind worked, and I got the honor of officiating the wedding. But so I guess it's, but you know, at this time, it's like we need to, I suppose sometimes we need to be a little bit flexible, like you said, with your family member, because that's their culture, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there's absolute context. And I don't think it was rigid as, okay, it's 4:30. Like, it wasn't like a factory, but it was more like, okay, now we know what's happening next. And so there's, you know, there comes a time where you just transition it off, or if something's not working. So those elements of that planning, I think that absolutely comes into the context. And by the way, I'm sure they're getting you as their wedding person officiating, because not only because you stick to time, but because of your character. So I just want to throw
you're so kind. You're so kind. I hope so. We'll find out on the day. So I want to fast forward a little bit. So you study a wide array of things. What did you actually want to do? Like, let's say when you finished high school, because you studied, I think it was business. It's got to do with something. If I remember correctly, also psychology was a wide array. What was your plan? You're like finishing high school.
Well, that's probably the most generic couple of degrees I could have put together, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? So I didn't want to jump into physiotherapy or like engineering, because that's very planned out. If you do that, you become this. I wanted to avoid that. Okay. But at the same time, I was sort of brought up thinking like all my friends were just going from high school to uni. So I just accepted that was the progression, not knowing what I wanted to do, no intentionality. So I picked two very loose fields. Business, there's opportunity to progress into anything. I decided to do HR and industrial relations after like the second year, and then arts, double major in psychology. That's probably linked back to my sporting background. So when I was, again, about the age of 11, 12, I read, so Stephen Covey wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I read the Highly Effective Teens version, which is written by Sean Covey, his son.
Oh, wow.
And I used to,
I didn't even know there was a book, but okay, I just learned something new.
The teen version was great because it like just spoke to me as a teenager, and I applied everything he wrote in that book to my netball career. So I was very goal oriented. For every game, I'd set goals, I'd go through that. And so I was really interested in psychology and mindset. And so I knew I wanted to work in that type of field, but I didn't know how it could be applied until I started like putting my feet out into the marketplace.
And you had an interesting story because you worked for people for a very, very long time. And then if I remember the story correctly, on your last day of work, it was at a get-together that you met somebody, and somewhere, somehow, next thing you know, you're getting booked out at Singapore, and then something to do with the Chanel brand, something like that. So tell us the story, because I thought it was a loose way.
Yeah, well, like it's my biggest fear. I was working, my last corporate job was working in a global role for a mining company, and I was traveling all over the world. And once I went to Mongolia, that was like my bucket list. It's like, oh, well, that's cool. Like, where do I go now? And the biggest fear for me leaving my job was I'll never get to travel for work again internationally, right? I just thought, oh, this will never happen on my own. But as you said, Charles, so what happened was there was like a train the train or some type of session in Sydney in my last week of work. And I thought, oh, look, I'll fly down there. And everyone's like, why are you doing that, Leanne? Like, just, go into second or first gear and just relax. And I'm like, no, this is a great opportunity to see everyone. And it was. And that, as you said, Charles, so it was one of those evenings after one of the days I was having just a cocktail with one of the people in our parent company. And she asked, hey, what do you want to do in the future? I said, I'd love to live in Asia someday. I love like Bangkok. It's my favorite city. And she said, oh, would you like to run these sessions across Asia? And I was like, yes. Yes. And then that booked out like 6 months of work. I was traveling to Hong Kong during the protests, running workshops in Singapore and across India as well. The Chanel gig was another instance, and this is from something I talk about in just building relationships is over time and just being of service to someone. And the book Pivot by Jenny Blake was like, it's a book that hit me in the face when I discovered it. I discovered it at a time when I wasn't satisfied in work. Because I loved it so much, I reached out to the author, and then over a couple of years, we developed a friendship. I went to New York. I met her for the first time. And then I think it was like maybe a month after that. This is maybe 3 months after leaving my job. I wake up one morning and there's this email and it says, hey, would you like me to fly you to Paris to run workshops for Chanel? Yeah, that would be amazing. So,
like what I hear from this, right? And I love it, is a lot of time people think, it's impossible or it's not going to happen. Listening to your story, it sounds like a freaking movie. Like people can literally turn this into a mini series. But what I hear from it is you took action because you're like, if not, why not? Like, for example, the author that you mentioned, Jenny, I know her and I remember she spoke at different places. The fact that you reached out to her, the fact that she actually wrote back, this is where it all started. But if you had the limitation of, nah, this will never happen, then it's not going to happen. So I don't know if you heard of this guy called Bob Goff.
No.
He wrote a few book called Love Does, Everybody Always. He's a lawyer, but he's also into just helping people, making this place amazing. And he's like in his 60s, and I'm not kidding you. His office is on Tom Sawyer Island in Disneyland.
What? Yes. I need to find out more about this guy.
Exactly. That's where his office is. He's a lawyer. I mean, it's like he taught at there's a university in America called Pepperdine University, and he shared the story like when his students want to come to him. Sure, your office hours, but you have to pay $95 for the ferry and to go see him on Tom Sawyer Island in Disneyland. And he said every time he goes there, there'll be at least 10 people waiting because they'll be like, what? How is this possible? So like some of his stories are just so incredible. Like I mean, I'm not going to spoil it, but I just finished listening to one of his audiobooks. And this is the craziest thing. In one of his book called Love Does, he actually put his telephone number in the book. and he'll have hundreds of calls a day that people phoning him and
Gosh.
I know, exactly, right? I know. I can see your jaw dropping. I've got his number saved. I phoned him a few times. He hasn't picked up yet. I'm going to continue to phone. So, Bob, if you ever hear this podcast, I'm phoning you.
Okay, I love that. I love that story because there is a good quote, and David White, he says, that which you can plan is too small for you to live. And I love that because life is so extraordinary. There's so many unlimited opportunities, but it starts with our own mindset and negotiating against ourselves and busting out of that because we're the ones that protect ourselves the most.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Like I sent him a text yesterday, Bob, a text yesterday saying that, listen, like every time if I feel like something's impossible, I listen to one of your stories and I just go, heck yeah, I can do it. Like, I mean, there's just too many stories to share about him but anyways, this is not the Bob show. This is a Leanne show. So let's go. Let's do a U-turn back. So I want to find out like something that you mentioned, everything in your booked out workshop. The whole idea is how to get booked out for the next 5 workshop from the first one. And the reason why I did this course myself was this is not just for facilitators. This can be for public speakers, for sales trainer like me, for somebody that is doing their own facilitation, human resource. It can be what makes this interesting is you kept the content simple, and there's something called the 3 C's. Can you tell people what the 3 C's are?
Yeah, well, I was trying to sort of like a lot of the stuff you was talking about, it came out of like serendipitous moments, but then Jim Collins talks about something called return on luck, where we all are given the same amount of luck. It's what you do with it. So when I think about like my experience with corporate work and how I've landed various gigs, I was thinking about each of those times, it's been one of those elements, like one of those 3 C's. It's either been through my connections, which have been, I've kept in touch with someone, or we've had a really great conversation that's gone somewhere. It's been the content I've put out. And I strongly believe, and you're a big fan of Don Miller as well, we can construct our own narrative online, right? So it's all about perception, and we get to craft that. We're like the Steven Spielbergs of our life when it comes to crafting those stories. So the content that you're putting out there, but also using content to really like organize your thoughts as well. And the third one is your craft. And I think this is one that I find it interesting, like as workshop facilitators, I rarely see some like, I look at, at our peers, and our biggest selling mechanism is a way that we show up and present these workshops. Like people are buying us not for the content, but for our energy, our ability to help them get results. And yet we shy away from showing that. And so I think there's ways either by hosting your own events and demonstrating that, but also seeding what you do as part of your workshop experience. And a good book on that, Jonah Berger wrote the book Contagious. It's how can you bring in those like influential, contagious type of moments within your workshop to create more word of mouth. And that's where it's going. I mean, you see with influencer marketing. So it's really matching up, I guess, the 2 careers I had in life, which were marketing and facilitation, bringing them together.
I mean, it's fascinating. Like Jonah, I've read Jonah's book, and he's got some. I think one of the case study that stuck up for me was the blender thing. Will it blend? Yeah. I think somebody, if I remember this correctly, it was I think it was a blender, and they wanted to show how powerful the blender was. They were literally blending iPhones. Yes, listener, they literally took an iPhone and say, will it blend? And they made a YouTube video and it just went viral. Little things like that. So I think he spoke about social currency, and I think Robert Cialdini is also a big guy in that about the influence. So it's so what I've noticed is you took your own experience, and you also I know you're an avid reader, which is going to be my next question now. And you took bits and pieces of the things that you have learned and read, and you package it in a way that made sense for you. I mean, that's how I understood it.
Exactly.
Am I on track?
Yeah, more about the content curation piece. So
yeah.
Curation and content, because what we're at the stage now is, I used this with a workshop group the other day. They are really focused on the content. I said, I gave them all these trivia questions. I said, you can use whatever device you want to answer it. So of course they all hop onto Google. So the challenge isn't having content. The challenge is what's the right content and what's the path of getting there the fastest. Because we're overwhelmed with the amount of content available to us. But the guide is the person that can go, right, you need this, not this. And I think curating that is actually quite important now when we're overwhelmed with the masses of information. It's like every day you read something, you're like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. But it's like, let's just cut out those things and just focus on this part.
That's a very good, very, very good point. The problem that we have today is not the lack of information, but is too much information. And you were talking about, if I remember correctly, you said something about focusing your mind and looking for something and getting what you're looking for, basically, because there's a lot of junk out there. So which actually reminded me of Google's pitch line all those years ago, which is in itself is a mini story. When they went to one of the original investors, their pitch to them was the world's information with a click of a button.
Yeah.
And that is so simple yet powerful. So and that is something that when I'm training people, say to them, like, you have to be able to summarize what you do with one sentence.
Mm.
It's and I can guarantee you that little sentence took them years to, well, sorry, not years. It took them time to actually condense it. They didn't just like thumbsuck it out of thin air.
Yeah, you kind of wish that was that easy, right? And I look at so many different websites and I think, and oh gosh, I love that and I love this. And as you said, it's exploration as well. But you know when you're hitting something when you can say to someone and then it just lands. So I mean, for Booked Out Facilitator, it was easy. Like the promise was easy. Book out 5 more workshops for every workshop you deliver. I think that
extremely catchy. Actually, I was hooked. I got hooked. This is me on the hook. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that, but it's all about that result, right? And I think a lot of us as service or facilitation roles, we think it's about the methodology. So, and even like my evolution as being a first-time facilitator was like, oh, let's create an unpredictable experience. So what? So what happens, right? So it's more focused on the result. And I'm glad that you brought up it's an iteration process. It takes time. You won't just wake up with like a eureka moment, unfortunately.
No, absolutely. It's like you cannot be let's say, I mean, one of the buzzwords is innovation. Everybody's talking about innovation. And you cannot be somebody that's an innovation speaker and 3 years later, you're still giving the same keynotes. You can't. We
see it.
Yeah, we do see it. We do see it. But the smart people will see right through it. I mean, yes. the smart people, I mean, me and you, we like working with smart people. They're people that just get it. But nevertheless, I want to find out from you, out of all the things, right, what do you enjoy the most about what you do?
Cool conversations with cool people, like this one with you, Charles. I was actually saying on to like Yuri, we talk about Yuri a bit. I was WhatsApping him the other day and I was just thinking, if I could get paid to do anything or just if my job was to do anything, it would be just to have cool conversations with cool people in cool locations. I like that. So that's what I love. And that's why I love the podcast. And I think what that sort of demonstrates is that I'm just curious about people, their experiences and learning from people in a social way. And that's why podcasting has been so great. So yeah, that's probably my favorite thing. I just love, again, I don't want to sound cliche, but when people walk away as a result of a conversation feeling inspired or compelled to do something, or they've learned something's shifted for them, that's like the ultimate result that I want to have with people is from some type of interaction we've had, they've got an insight, they're ready to move.
Like a switch went on inside them, right? The aha moment.
That's a great way of saying it. I
know exactly what you're talking about. And that is also one of the things what I love what I do. And I don't know if you agree with me, there's no timeline. Sometimes people click in the first section, sometimes they click 3 months down the line, but when they click, you can see it on their faces. Do you agree with that?
Oh, well, also, I'm getting in the habit now of just re-listening to things that I've had. So I've set up my own internal podcast. It's called Stuff Leanne Needs to Listen Back To. So it's been like coaching conversations I've had with someone. This might be from a year ago and I've played it back recently. And something that I did not hear 12 months ago, it is like, I'm hearing it right now. So you're right about timing. It's interesting what we focus on at different times of our life and what's more relevant. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if I think about getting married as an example, getting married wasn't relevant to me in my 20s or having children, like everything, there's a time and season for everything.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Now, I mean, like I said, I know you're a big avid reader. So, and if you had to pick out, first of all, I mean, let's talk about your podcast for a second. out of all the guests, who are the next 3 people that you would love to interview, dead or alive? Anything is possible. Give me 3 guests that you would love to have on your show, dead or alive.
On the first time facilitated podcast, I'd say Adam Grant would have to be up there.
Okay, I like him. Yeah.
But that's still playing a bit too small. Like if we were to say not the first time, just any podcast, I honestly, Mike Tyson would be up there. I know that sounds really weird. I'm just amazed by his journey. I think he's a really interesting character. I'd love to talk to him. His voice is unique. Oh,
I'm not going to try to emulate his voice. I mean, I do it off air, and but I'm not gonna do that. I agree. Okay, so Adam, and then Mike, and who else? Dead or alive?
Yeah, I know that is really hard. This is because it's unlimited. Someone.
Are you stumped now?
Yeah, I really am. Because
I have stumped you.
I tell you why I'm stumped is because as I'm about to answer, I'm like, no, that's playing too small. Like, stop playing too small. Like, I'm already. Yeah.
So we're scrapping Adam now. Are we scrapping Adam?
Yeah, I'd have to have like a.
Sorry, Adam Grant, you're great, but you're on the.
Maybe like a famous revolutionary. I would like someone that's just gone against, and just fundamentally changed life. So we're looking at historical.
Thomas Edison.
Yeah, or even like a Benjamin Franklin's actually quite interesting. I heard Pat Flynn talk about his biography, where like everything happened for Benjamin Franklin after the age of 40. So maybe that's interesting as I'm 38 now, progress to that. But Charles, you really have stumped me there. And I don't think any answer I'm going to give you is going to be like, I will be thinking about this one for weeks. So. Okay.
What about any female? Because you haven't mentioned any female.
I know. Yet. That's what I was thinking about as well.
That's okay. I mean, we can come back to that.
Like a tennis player.
Tennis player. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have Adam. Adam is the reserve. Adam Grant is on the reserve, and Mike. I mean, I'd love to chat. I'd love to hang out with Mike, and I'm trying to find ways to get hold of Mike Tyson myself, because I'm an amateur boxer. I've been boxing since 2015. I didn't know that. Yeah. Well, you know now, and I'm a big boxing fan, and I train with my trainer once a week. So Mike is definitely somebody that I'd love to hang out and chat to, and have him like direct me to how I can move better, throw punches better. So definitely.
Wow, that'd be a good show. Maybe, I probably don't deserve to have Mike. But now I hear that, I'm like, I'd have to pass him on to Charles if that ever happened. But yeah, there's definitely females that have inspired me, but I think I've connected with a lot of them. Like a lot of the females that I really love and admire, it could be possible. So they're not in like that, crazy. I've got to dream bigger, Charles. That's a good signal for me.
Oprah? What about Oprah?
Yeah, she's too everyone says Oprah. Yeah.
Everyone says Oprah. All right.
So no. So, I love her. She's awesome, but yeah.
Yeah, she is.
Generic.
Like, now, I want to find out from you. So let's talk about people. Let's talk about the 3 people or 3 persons that have influenced you the most. Why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely my parents, of course, like in terms of their influence and the differences between them. And it's actually nice.
So are they a package deal? So they're a package deal. Okay, yeah, so that's exactly why. Okay, all right.
You separate them. I will have to say Jenny Blake, that author I was talking to before, because she's really got me questioning. I mean, I was brought up thinking to do anything in life, you have to work hard. But she has a different approach to that. She talks about things like non-linear breakthroughs, serendipity, maximizing joy and ease in your business. So actually having that as a criteria, as a measurement, as opposed to dollars, all the metrics, right? So she actually separates that and gives permission for us as business owners to explore like the energy and going with your gut, which is stuff that working in construction, mining companies, working for the government, I mean, no one talks about that. So she's brought that back to my life. And more recently, we had a pre-conversation around this. It would be Alan Weiss, the aggressive New Yorker consultant, who the reason he can be quite like sandpaper for a lot of people, including myself, but I've kind of get to know his style now. I just think he's a genius in the way that he thinks, and that he really challenges my way of thinking. And in that, I feel like I grow. So yeah.
Now, I look with Alan, the fact that what I respect about Alan is, by the way, if you guys don't know who that is, Alan Weiss, $1 Million Consultant. That was a book I think that launched his career, and that was what, 20 years ago, if I'm 20, 30 years ago.
1990s. Yeah, he started value-based pricing. Yeah.
Now, from what I've gathered, he's not a people pleaser. He doesn't care if you like him or not. If you like him, you work with him. If you don't, it's fine. And I get that. I get that. There was one wise man, which I'm not going to mention the person's name now, but he mentioned something that he said, the secret to success, he might not know the secret to success, but he knows the secret to failure, and that is trying to please everyone.
Yeah, agree.
Do you know who said that?
I read, that was in a book I read recently.
Bill Cosby. Yeah. That's why I didn't want to say it, because he's in a bit of a trouble right now.
Yeah, that's bad. So I guess Alan Weiss reminds me, I did have one of my bosses, I used to work for this very controversial company called Wicked Campers. Actually, I'd probably put this guy, John Webb, into that category of 3 people. Let's make it 4. But he would give me all these CDs to listen to, Jim Rohn, everything else. And so John was all about investing in my personal development, but John didn't care about anything. I mean, you should have seen the stuff that we did with this company. I mean, he would get lawsuits sent to the office, and he just threw them out. He literally did not care what anyone thought about him. And while he took things a bit too far, I was like, if I could channel maybe 20% of that, I think I'll be better. We can't go living through life caring what other people think. It's because people don't actually care that much, to be honest.
No, they don't. No, they really don't. And you know what? Like, I just want to. I mean, you being a solopreneur for, if I remember correctly, next year as a January, February will be 3 years.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, it is January. January will be 3 years. And when it's January again next year, I would like to invite you back. And the reason for that is it will be 1,000 days. 1,000 days in business. And that is a big deal.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing, the growth.
Because, I mean, I don't know if the stats is the same on your side, but on our side, I think 70% of the businesses could even be higher, don't make it past 1,000 days. So when you have made it past 1,000 days, I definitely want you to invite back and just have a reflection piece about some of the highs and lows that you have gone through. If you
Absolutely.
All right. And I mean, just one last thing before we, as we're wrapping up now, what do you think is one of the biggest myths about what you do that people don't think about or don't talk about?
The biggest myth, when it comes in the context of, I can talk about solopreneurship, but maybe about facilitation. I think that the myth is that we're all extroverts. Is the biggest myth. Like when I was growing up and watching these facilitators, I thought they were extremely confident. They would go to parties. They were like the most popular person. And what I've noticed, majority of my podcast guests are all introverts, which I find really interesting. So I don't really think, so I think that's probably a big myth. The other myth would be in terms of solopreneurship. Yeah, you don't have to work hard to be successful. You've got to work smart.
Okay. Wow. I wasn't expecting that answer. So Leanne,
the work hard one.
Yes, I was really not expecting that. But no, I wasn't. I really wasn't. Now I want to ask you a question, and this will be the last question, and that is, if you can go back to yourself, like when you first started in 2019, because we are approaching 20. You're 3 years now. If you can go back and tell yourself one thing that you have learned, or one thing that you can change, or one thing that you shouldn't do, what would you have said to yourself back in 2019?
Stop targeting learning and development.
Why is that? Do you think it's too narrow?
No, because I don't have the budget to buy what you can do.
Oh, bird. Bird. And how long did it take for you to figure it out?
Well, it was on that interview with Alan Weiss last year, where he's like, stop targeting HR. He goes, I call them hardly relevant. And I was like, whoa.
I know, I heard that. My jaw dropped. And if listeners out there, if you're working HR, no offense. I mean,
we love you. Yeah, I mean, that's where I've come from, so I love them. That's it's not offensive, but it's in the case of building a business. That is an important lesson. Yeah.
in Alan's defense, I want to explain what he meant by that. When he says HR meaning highly relevant, he asked a very, very good question. He said, how many people that you know with an HR background became directors, became CEOs? And that is a very, very good question. I don't know what the stats are in Australia, but in South Africa, most of the CEOs are CAs, chartered accountants, because it's numbers.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I don't think I've ever come across any HR company, any person with HR background that became directors of company, listed company. I don't. I can't think of any. So that's what he meant by that. That's what he meant by that. He wasn't dissing human resource as in non-relevant.
No, he was. Yeah, thank you for providing that clarity, because out of context, it would have been like, oh, who is this Leanne? But
you're going to get a lot of haters. You're going to get a lot of haters.
No, but it really was. I wish I'd learned that early enough, because I built up the back. I thought, like, hanging out at all these events, and I felt, I could have used that time to network more effectively. But saying that, I've had an awesome time. I probably wouldn't change a thing, but you're giving me the option now, so that's what I would have told myself.
But I think everything's a learning experience, right? Everything is a learning experience. But Leanne, thank you so much for your time. And if listeners want to listen to your podcast or want to get hold of you or drop you a mail, where's the best place to get hold of you?
Yeah, awesome. The podcast is called First Time Facilitator. LinkedIn, just search Buddies with Charles, so Leanne Hughes, or visit leannehughes.com to find out more. And I'd love to hear from you. I really do. And we can just talk about how awesome Charles is as well. So please.
Leanne Hughes, thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Charles.